Hey, I've had a lot of you asking for an overview of Toolpath. People want to see what I see in Toolpath. What did I see when I took a jump from arguably one of the most sought after positions in the CAM world, leading the manufacturing team at Autodesk? What did I see and why did I jump to Toolpath? What do I believe we can do? There's many of you that want to see that. And at the same time, as a Toolpath team, we're really focused on the robustness of the system and helping the current users find success. So in this quick video, I'm going to walk you through where we're at, but also show some data points to reinforce where we're headed. And hopefully that can help you see, again, what I was so inspired by. The team really started with automating the Toolpath process, and that is the mission. Our mission is to automate the Toolpath process, not to try and take programmers and get them out of work. We fundamentally believe that if we can automate some of the menial tasks for professionals, we can raise them up to do more. So while many are talking about a skills gap, we see it more as a productivity gap. Can we increase the productivity of the current set of professionals to be able to produce more? That started with automating Toolpath, and that's gotten us very close to being able to fully automate the estimating process. So that's the current product focus, is a tool for estimating. With that said, the estimating, the end view is to get to full Toolpath automation, and that's what's happening behind the scenes. So I'm going to show you that behind the scenes look first, and then we'll kind of come full circle and see kind of some of the things that we can influence in the way you'll be able to influence the product as we build out the experience to inject more of your knowledge into the system. So what I'm looking at here is a good demo part that we've used to test the product and the capabilities. It's a bike clamp. There's a radius in this corner, and you'll see an example of this part without a radius where the system helps users identify parts that aren't manufacturable, which we believe is a critical part of the estimating step. So in this part, if I expand out the setups, you can actually see the automatically created setups and Toolpath. So Toolpath will look at the entire part and determine what setups are needed and generate the toolpaths. If we scrub through the toolpaths, we can see that we've roughed and finished the outside of the part. We've faced it with a small 1/2-inch end mill, and some will say that's terrible, and others will say that's the best way of doing things. Now, thankfully, we did finish face it with a larger face mill, but these are some of those sorts of preferences that you want to be able to bake into the system. The system's also using the user's end speeds and feeds. Or cutting presets. Okay, so we've got some toolpaths on here. These were all automatically generated. If I look at one of the contour toolpaths, I think it's nice to see. We can edit that toolpath, and the system has actually selected the geometry in an associative way, the way you would have expected to do it as a human. So you can almost think of this as the system did what you might ask an intern to do for you, so that as the expert, you can make those final tweaks and rearrange things. That's really the core intent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete all of this. I know if you're seeing this video, you're on my list of people that trust me, and you know that I wouldn't be lying to you. With that said, I think it's still better to delete all of it, and we'll see it in action. I'm going to launch the CAM accelerator. Now the workflow is actually going to switch around. So we believe it should come in as estimating and then bring you to Fusion, kind of share the homework of the estimating. But this is the way we've got the system working today. Here, the user is simply selecting the part that they want to consume. Very generic method of defining stock. So obviously work to go there. And then behind the scenes, and don't read too much into this UI, but I do want to show you kind of what the UI can do so you have an understanding of it. Behind the scenes, you see this area where we're mapping to your cutting presets and your tool libraries to know what to grab. So here you can see on the facing, it's using an aluminum facing preset that grabbed a facing tool. But then for the roughing first step and light roughing, it's only using roughing profiles, and there wasn't a facing profile in there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is actually just copy that profile, and I'm going to add it over to the light and heavy roughing option, so that if a face mill will fit in that situation, it makes sense. We give the system the ability to select a larger face mill for that facing. So again, this isn't the right UI, but we want to kind of speak to the core belief that the system should respond to your best practices. and we're starting by showing the less refined areas of it. As I said, I'll get into the deeper areas in a minute or two. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK. That's going to kick off the job. It's going to send it into the Toolpath site, and it's going to run through all of the automations. So here we're identifying the features. It'll run through its automations. What I want to do in the meantime is let's just go over and look at some of the other parts. We can see this one running. You can imagine these parts, instead of coming from Fusion, they've emailed the flow in automatically. All this compute happens before you end up getting to a review phase. So here we're looking at things that have been ingested into the system, and we've analyzed them. I have an example of the clamp here that we ran previously. And in this case, we didn't have that radius, so the system let us know that there's an unmachinable area of the part. And that kind of brings us to the first step. We're now in the estimating tool. And what are you trying to do as a user when you're estimating? Well, to me, you're really trying to answer 3 questions. First, is this a job that I can make, or I'm going to lose my shirt? So you're looking to say, is it manufacturable, and is it manufacturable with the tooling that I have? In this case, it's not manufacturable, so that might tell you that you want to reject the job. That might tell you you want to inform the customer to make some design changes. In this case, I made that design change. But that's kind of at the core of what you're trying to do. Is this a part that I want to take on? Now, now that we've sort of analyzed it, and we'll just kind of look through for now, the system has looked through the set of tools from your library and indicated which tools are going to be necessary. It's also figured out what setups are going to be necessary to machine this part. So we're going to machine from this side. We'll do some through holes. We'll profile the part. Then we're going to flip it over. We're going to knock some chamfers on it, do some more holes. Where this one really started to struggle is we have a 4th, 5th, 6th operation where the AI, the machine learning, was trying to get in and get these sharp corners. Again, it'd be very useful to get your feedback. Should we just fail and force it to 4 setups unless there's a very clear logical reason? Or should we iterate through trying to find machining these things that we already knew are unmachinable? It's a good question. I'll leave that for later. But anyway, you can see that the system has identified these various setups. It's identified the tools. And then the system has also generated a quote, in which case the quote allows you to start to see what the cost is, looking at the number of tool changes. You can bake into the system in your profiles. So let's just open up one of these profiles. You can bake in the tool change time, the cost for running the machine, these sorts of things. So that's going to generate you your quote. You can look at kind of the homework behind it and see what tool was being used, what speeds and feeds were being used for that to gut check and say, is this quote accurate? So that's the quoting or the estimating phase. Actually, I prefer to think of it as an estimating phase because we're figuring out the numbers that you would populate onto a quote that probably includes things like plating and those other things. Okay, so we've got the machinability report. We kind of looked at generating the tool list. We looked at generating the operations. This other part that we ran through Fusion is now fully complete. This time it only took 4 operations because I added the fillet into there, and it's machined fully. So let's look at a couple things that are unique about this that I found very intriguing. If we look at that first setup, we're still kind of profiling it. In the first setup, we're flipping it over. In the second setup, it understands what material was removed in the first setup versus the second setup. So from this orientation, we're calling them operations in Toolpath. We just need to face it. We don't need to profile it again, but we do need to knock that chamfer on. So it's aware of what stock is removed in each of these ops. And so that's when we talk about a holistic understanding of the part. That's very unique to this technology and what really got me excited. Things get a little more interesting when we get into this pocket on the bottom side. So we're going to run this pocket here. What you'll notice is it's just actually going to machine the pocket. When we open Fusion, you'll see that it roughs and finishes it. But the AI didn't get greedy and it didn't cut that slot out because it understands that on the backside there is a chamfer and we don't have a back chamfering tool. So instead of cutting the slot and then having to chamfer it later, the system actually understood on that fourth setup, that's where we're going to cut the pocket and that's where we're going to knock the chamfer on. So some very unique things in looking at how it holistically divides up and attacks a part, not just within a setup, but holistically across a setup. And that's what's going on behind the scenes when those calculations are taking